Well, the knife that started it all is finally getting a refresh. The F4 was the flagship launching blade for Reiff Knives. Now well established in the knife world for excellent fit and finish, straightforward design, American build quality, and toughness and durability. And since Reiff Knives originally came on the scene, there have been many new models introduced, and many of them have even gotten Gen 2 refreshes. And it only makes sense that it would be time for its original design to be updated. And so I have here the F4 Gen 2 that we're gonna have fun today, just unpacking, putting it through the ringer, seeing how it compares to the original model, seeing what they've changed, maybe what they've kept the same, and really seeing where this blade is capable in and where it might be limited, and it might make sense to actually go with something larger and really dive into what a companion belt knife really is. So I'm gonna go ahead and pack on up and head back to the Blade Boot Camp, bring you guys along for the ride, and we're just gonna have a blast. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I'm Aaron. This is Gideonstactical. Let's dive in and have some fun. Da na 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 na. You guys know, hooked on a feeling. Okay, we made it back safe and sound. So let's start right out of the gate with probably one of the biggest and most significant changes to me, which is the massive update on the sheath. Super glad to see this update. Never was a big fan, I said so, of the Kydex that originally came on the first gen. Had a belt clip, it was rotatable, but not ambidextrous. You know, like it just wasn't really what my jam. And so this takes it up and kicks it up a notch, because now we have ambidextrous pancake design, tension screw, adjustable Kydex that can be rotated, can be removed with the drop, and a Kydex loop that can be removed for blade tech lock or molly locks, all that type of stuff. So that right there to me is massive, especially as like a big boy EDC. That's what I call it, big boy EDC. You can easily drop that right on your pocket, and I mean, it's not coming off. Like, there it is. It's not going to accidentally come out. Okay. Yeah. Now, these Reiffs always have great 90-degree spines. That was cake on my Uberleben with my little bellows wick. Little build out. I'll try and link what I can when I can. Now we're going to start off with a tip test, because that is the next thing. They have changed the drop point geometry and given us a higher grind. So I actually like the way that this drop, it's a little bit more organic to me than the original. Not that the original is bad, but this just is more aesthetically pleasing. And anytime you change tip geometry and grind height, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Always got to make sure, and doesn't disappoint, baby. So exactly what you would expect from 3V, which is what this is being used. HRC is 5961, right in that sweet spot. Reiff Knives now having proved themselves for durability. That is exactly what I would expect and want, not only in tip strength, but also just in the 3V, which was what the original model came with. One of my favorite steels. You know, it's really like 3V, MagnaCut would be like probably my 2 top tier. And then obviously there's tons of other ones. Look at this, guys. Look at this. Oh my gosh. This is a Curlossalis. Oh my gosh. This is giving this stick a perm, bro. Oh my gosh. Look at that. Dudes, are you seeing that? Wow. Okay, so the grind height is the other change on top of tip geometry and just kind of the style. Brought the grind height up, thinner behind the edge, which is obviously proving itself with that carving. Holy guacamole, Batman. And I used this out in the woods. So, I mean, this is already a used blade. This isn't like out of the box. At least on the finer work, which is what a knife of this size, right around 4 inches, you know, is going to be used for, is all the fine stuff. For tip durability and feather stick making, basic carving when I was out there in the woods, you know, doing notches, put my finger on the spine, nice flat spine, so you're easily able to do like notches, stuff like that. Okay, got the bucket of doom with all the different gear we got to cut through. 7,000 pound rated toe strap, one pass. And for this size blade, sometimes you got to do double passes, but the geometry and the sweep gives you enough cutting that you don't miss, and then you have to do a second pass. So that's really good to see. But really what that's speaking to is like, yes, the sheath needed a complete redesign. It absolutely did. But the design of the F4 Gen 1 was always good. It's just like, how do we tweak this and make it a little bit better? So obviously, aesthetically, tip geometry being changed. Hemp rope, just eating that up. Oh my gosh. Dude, single cut, man. What I always look for with these is, am I sawing? Right? If I'm having to go like, then the geometry isn't good. But I can tell that right there, especially like a for real just push cut. And I'm getting like right through that without any sawing. So it's showing that that thinness behind the edge, in my mind for this size of knife, totally the right move. Totally the right move. We'll see with a piece of cardboard. Let's see. Oh yeah. No bogging. So separate from that is the handle. So the handle, what I always appreciated about an F4 was how big the handle is. It's girthy at almost an inch. I think it's like 0.8, 0.89, something like that. Maximum thickness. They haven't changed any of that. It's just been slightly altered. Some of the tang dimensions have been slightly altered. And I think it just works for the better. You know, it takes what was a stellar handle and just kind of dials it in ever so slightly, and then gives us the 3D texture. And you can get that on both the G10 or micarta. This is the G10 model. It's just ever so slightly there. You know, some companies, they go overboard. You know, they kind of like overdo it, and it's too rigid. You know, it's too tough. You feel it. You're like, oh, I'm going to get blisters. Now I have to wear gloves. This is just like the faintest little level of texture. So it gives you just a little something to grab onto. It's not like slick polish, but it's not going to be abrasive in any way, shape, or form. And then the other aspect is now these, whereas the old model was like shaped to the knife, so you couldn't swap different materials or different colors. So you're like, this handles are going to fit this knife, and there might be lips, and like it's just not going to fit right. These now are being machined in a way where they're interchangeable, and they're actually going to be selling these models down the line. These are going to be available to just get the scales themselves. You're thinning out the blade. Now it's 3V and with a good heat treat and Rockwell. So we should suspect nothing different, but you know, you never know. Oh, whoa! What is up, yo? Yeah, dude. What if this is all I carried today, and for whatever reason I got to build a lean-to, and I got to get through this? I don't have an axe, I don't have a saw. Is the F4 built to be able to do this? Should be good. Let's see. There it is. So, in a pinch, if I had to. Yeah, and I'm not seeing any snagging or deforming. Right here, this edge looks great. No chips. So this is still yet to need to be honed or sharpened in any way. Zero damage after an outing in the high country and a bunch of backyard blade boot camp testing. Now, as it stacks up to like pricing, competitive options, you know, that type of stuff, and what details will be available at launch. So they're going to be launching the Gen 2 F4 at 12 p.m. Eastern time on May 1st, 2026. So I'm actually posting this up a day early. Now, I do appreciate Stu sending me this sample so I could show you guys what it's capable of, where it works, maybe where it doesn't for you. Now, Stu didn't pay me to make this video in any way. He has no idea what I'm talking about or what I'm going to say, what I like and what I don't. I do have an affiliate link, which I earn a small commission off of sales. So tomorrow when this drops, if you see value in this type of content, you want to empower me to make more content like this, then I encourage you, just hit that link. It's free for you, takes you over to the site, and I'll earn a small commission off of that sale. So, and just helps me continue to do what I do here. Now, with that said, what's cool is that when we're talking about steel, in the last 6 months, there's been a lot of upheaval, a lot of changing of hands of companies and things, and their new models tend to be quite more expensive than old models because of steel costs and things like that. But at drop, this model that you see here is going to be $335, which is about the same cost as the Gen 1. So we're not seeing a big increase, and that's for the stonewash version. If you want DLC or PVD coated versions, those will be $350. So that's what the pricing is currently going to be. Now, here are a few areas where I see this being like a big win. As an example, if you carry big, heavy folders, this is a full-size Benchmade Adamas, right around the same cost as the F4 Gen 2. And this is kind of like your regular pocket knife EDC. And you're kind of on the fence and you're like, maybe I should like transition to a compact fixed blade. This is actually pretty similar in size to something like that for, I would say, overbuilt, extra large EDC. It's definitely an option for people who use their knives a lot and are contemplating ditching a pocket knife for a compact fixed blade. Definitely on the table for everyday carry. Now, where do I see this probably being the best fit? Even though we saw it being able to split a tree down if I had to, lots of energy. It's tough enough to do it, but it's going to be a lot of energy burnt. You know, for me personally, I see this as a kit knife. And what I mean by that, it's a companion blade. It pairs with other tools. So if you regularly go out with a folding saw and you regularly go out with maybe a hatchet or a larger chopping instrument, you're like a big blade, you know, you have a big like 10-inch Essie Hunglis or for your, you know, shelter and fire building, this is just more for the fine detailed stuff. If you are more of a person who'd rather just carry one tool, this is probably not the right choice. I would go with something else. You could look at the F6 or the F5 is really like the ideal full-size camp knife that could stand alone. Go with something bigger. The F4 is just going to be a little too compact to get done the work that you really need unless you're pairing it with other tools. That's me. That's my mileage. That's where I see it fitting. That's where I see it doesn't fit. But I want to know from you guys, what do you think, not only about the Gen 2 update, but also just the size range, like about a 4-inch fixed blade with a good size handle and very robust. Is that like your go-to size for a fixed blade, or do you prefer something that's bigger, smaller? Love to know your guys' feedback, thoughts. Really appreciate your guys' time today. I invite you to check out the other video popping up, to subscribe if you haven't. And until next time, always remember, stay equipped, stay prepared, and I'll see you out there.